So first up today, we have Next Quest, and they're going to be talking about their summer camp for the summer. So without further ado, here we go. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And clicker.
Yep. Let me grab it 1 second.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Is this working?
Not really.
Am I working?
It's got to be super close.
Somebody hit play on me.
Don't stand in front of your presentation.
Thank you. You tend to wander. And most often, when I'm doing a presentation, I'll usually put somebody in charge of watching where I put the clicker, because I put it down all the time. So, all right. So my name is Jim Ullman. I'm with Next Quest. Some of you may know me in my other incarnation. I have another business called Sprightly that focuses on organizational culture, employee engagement, strategic planning, training, all kinds of stuff, people related. A lot of the principles that we're using in Next Quest are ones that we use in our business as well. So Next Quest, what we're doing is helping teens and 20-somethings level up in life. So how many of you have a teen, know a teen? Have a 20-something?
How many brought a teen?
Know a 20-something? How many brought a teen? Very good. Most of us do at some point, but really the principle behind Next Quest is that at some point in time, everyone is stuck in life, and at some point in time, everyone has a Next Quest. All right? So that's behind what we're trying to say with our nonprofit. We're focusing on teens and 20-somethings for some very specific reasons. So what's going on with teens and 20-somethings? Driving and working are down. How many of you, when you turn 16, wanted your license right off the bat? About more than 25% of college seniors at this point do not have a driver's license. How many of you had a job in high school? Only about 55% of seniors have a job in high school. Dating and socializing are down. This one kind of blows me away. In 2009, if you were an 8th grader in 2009, you were going out and socializing physically with your friends more than seniors do today. Seniors in high school. Right? So a shift in 9 years. College grads are moving home. Anybody experience that? Okay. More and more. For the first time, I think in 2016, more college grads moved home than moved out on the road. Anxiety and depression are up all over the place. So a little hard, I don't have 3 hands there, but I put a little, on my iPad there. Time magazine had an article this week that said since 2013, depression is up about 47%. And a lot of that's happening with our youth. Slower overall maturation. Research, if you do generational research, so when we talk teens and 20-somethings, we're primarily talking about iGens and millennials. Research is showing that baby boomers at 21 were achieving the kind of things that millennials are achieving at around 29. Just a lot slower in all kinds of ways. So Next Quest is stepping into this space. We spark adulting in teens and 20-somethings using role-playing games and sound development theory, all right, some of the stuff out of Sprightly, to help them get unstuck, overcome obstacles, find their passion, embrace the future. So we use the term stuck a lot, but really the focus is how do we help people move forward? How do we help them level up? And so we're combining gaming with their goals and what, the ways that they need to move forward. So our developmental model, we're using an assessment tool, or a couple of assessment tools there. How many of you have been reading about Cambridge Analytica? We're not them. But the assessment tool that they were using is based on the 5-factor model. So many of you are probably familiar with the Myers-Briggs. They were using 5-factor model because it's probably a little bit stronger, a little bit more rigorous, and that's the model we use. We have an instrument that's suitable for kids from 12 to 22, and then a workplace instrument for those that are older. Okay? Life values inventory. That's a free tool. Just Google life values inventory, and you can take it right now if you'd like. But we do some assessments with them. Then we put together developmental plans and have bi-weekly one-on-ones with the folks that are in the program. Then we have gaming, so in-person role-playing games. How many of you want to admit that you did Dungeons & Dragons at one point? It's making a huge, huge comeback. And what they're finding is that for those folks who, especially teens and 20-somethings who have anxiety and depression, it's actually a benefit. There are therapist offices that are having some of the group therapy, or their therapy groups. They are using Dungeons & Dragons. Now they're basically using it just for socializing. They're getting the kids to get together. And that's really what a lot of this is. A lot of the sources of some of the struggles that teens and 20-somethings are having are around screen addiction and social media, right? You've been reading more and more about that. So what we try and do is we try and move them into the real world with their gaming. And then we use some incentives with leveling up their character. So how do they level up their character? Well, they do stretching. So we call them stretch quests. Okay? So real world tasks. Part of their developmental plan is to do something in the real world each week. And then when they come together for the gaming session, we check in with them. If they have accomplished their task, we award them experience points, XP, toward their characters, and they can ramp up their character more quickly. So we're trying to use the gaming incentive as a way to spur development, right? And then we do in-game practice. So we talked about anxiety and depression at the beginning, but kids are working a lot of things. Sometimes it's a job, or sometimes maybe just more things like assertiveness or conflict resolution. So what we're doing is we're building into the gameplay opportunities to practice those skills. So if a kid wants to work on assertiveness, we'll encourage them to take a lead in some of the gaming sessions we have. Make some decisions, move the group forward. The gaming model that we use is very collaborative, so that's also cool. It's all about teamwork and everybody achieving. But we build that into the game depending upon the needs of the clusters. Supported webinars at this point. So things like goal setting, forming good habits, if you're in education, you'll know the terms like growth and fixed mindset, so how you work toward more of a growth mindset and whatnot. Those are the components of the developmental model we have. So stretch quest, so essentially what we're trying to, growth doesn't happen really unless people move out of their comfort zone. And what's happening a lot with kids these days is that they're not being challenged to move out of their comfort zone. So we have these stretch quests where each week, like I said, we have a developmental activity for them. And how we're putting that together is we're using the assessments, like the Big Five, their values inventory, and other reported ways that they want to develop or challenges that they have. And then initially what we do is we do some crowdsourcing with coaches that we know. Right? In this case, what stretch activities would you suggest to help a quester figure out how to become a trade or crafts person? So you guys are all into entrepreneurship. How do you help this person get forward in life? Metalworking, carpentry, tattooing, baking are some of their interests, but they also have these other things going on. You know, they can't decide which direction to go, have some anxiety, lots of curiosity, willingness to try some things and not others, but hesitant to seek a mentor. So what we do is we put that out to our cadre of coaches that we're working with and just get some ideas. And then we work with the quester to determine which of these they need to tackle first. So this week it might be this sort of activity, this week it might be another activity, and then we bring in some ideas and suggestions of our own. All right, so recently our questers have battled giant centipedes, bested cannibalistic children, blasted the first sinner, escaped the valleys of Marin, and landed a full-time job with benefits, applied to community college, started volunteer service, and learned to handle fight-flight responses. Here's who's involved. So you see me on the left there. Have the business around employee engagement and organizational culture. I'm also on the faculty with the Center for Creative Leadership. John Broder was for about 20 years in charge of the Carolina Leadership Development Program, working with college students around leadership development. Scott Moore is a huge gamer and a personal and business coach. So those are the folks that are primarily involved at this point. Our future, summer camps. Casey, I think, mentioned summer camps. So our developmental model is really designed to go over time throughout the year, but we're also exploring summer camps right now. Probably a little bit late. We really opened our doors with our first cohort in February, so we're a little bit late to getting into summer camp, but we're going to test it out. We're building relationships with game stores in the area, and some of the game stores have several thousand people that they reach out to on a regular basis through Facebook and meetup groups and whatnot. Specialty schools, there's a school called the Achievement Academy in Durham that's interested in this program. So they're working on helping 16 to adult get their GED, and those 16 to adult folks might also have more things that they need to do other than just get GED. So can we plug in? College campuses, we're also going to explore that this summer. We've got a conversation started with a college in Raleigh about running a group in the dorm. And then young adults on the spectrum. Lots of people have told us that kids on the spectrum would really benefit from this and are looking for this sort of solution. We're not there yet with being able to feel like we can provide those services, but it's around. Fee for service is a mixture of fee for service and charitable donations is what we're looking at right now. And we have the fees you can see in the handouts that are there. And then we have a Patreon site. We'd like to establish scholarships with businesses to sponsor a kid in the program or multiple kids. And then as we develop our Our ask. So we have a mailing list over here. Sign up to that if you want more information. If you know a teen or 20-something that you think could benefit by combining gaming with development, send them our way. We're looking to connect with with companies in general, but game companies in the triangle, advisors and board members, other opportunities to speak at groups like this. And then also, if you're interested, we have you can roll a D20 and win a little prize over there. A D20 is a dice, one particular die, one of the dice that we use. So that's next quest.
How do we reach you? Have a contact line?
Oh, I have business cards all on the. Yeah.
We're going to open it up to questions now.
Yes.
That first slide of yours was shocking.
Yeah. There's some generational things going on.
Yeah, that's what I'm here. So that's the trend you see. What is the root cause of all this? What's going on?
A lot of it, not all of it.
Can you repeat the question?
So what's the root cause of this? Okay. What's the root cause? So not all of it, but a lot of it is the screen addiction, right? So we're not necessarily trying to play that out because we're not trying to tell kids we're taking you off screen, but we're trying to move them more into the real world where they see some progress and make some progress with that. So screen addiction and social media. My own I haven't seen any research on this, but my own speculation around the socializing is that parents have just gotten used to driving their kids all over the place, right? Over the last probably 15 years or so. When we were growing up, we probably played and went to school with the kids in our neighborhood. And I sort of wonder if magnet schools with everybody, the kid next door goes to a completely different school. And I think to have a play date, then you have to sort of drive across town. Some of the parents are saying, yes, I've experienced that. So I think that's having an impact on it. Yep. Another. Yeah.
To teens and 20s, I can imagine even larger ranges.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Teens and
Oh, yeah,
20s.
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
You were saying that you're focused on teens and 20s, and I could just imagine an even larger range of kids and adults who need this. What do you how rigid is the definition of who you work with, and do you have any plans to?
Yeah, we're on. That's on our radar.
I know
We're
a
focusing on-
7-year-old needs.
Yeah, we're focusing on teens and 20-somethings to try and kind of define and market at this point. But like I said, everyone gets stuck at some point, and everyone has a next quest. You all in here have a quest you're working on of some kind, and maybe we can be helpful in that. I have had parents say, my kid's 32, and could use this. So there's not a limit to the principles. Right now, we're just trying to focus on the Margo, but we're on the teens and 20-somethings because there's some specific things going on with them. But the model could be replicated for other age groups. Yeah. So here and then here.
Can you talk to me about partnerships? Who are you partnering with now?
Yeah. So who are we? To the gaming community, which is huge. I mean, there are 5 major stores, which may not seem like a lot, but like I said, they have a lot of traffic. 5 major stores in the area, and that's what we're looking to partner with the summer camps on because they have space all day long, Monday through Friday. That's not really used all that much. It's used kind of like a light co-working kind of environment, right? People drop in, but they're probably like 10% filled. So we're working with them on that. We'd like to develop partnerships, like I said, with gaming companies. We'd like to develop partnerships with educational institutions and provide on-site gaming to the kids that they're serving, the teens and 20-something they're serving. Well,
So Jim, first of all, kudos to you for tackling this.
Yeah.
I can point to a half a dozen different sets of parents in my own world that will jump at the opportunity to somehow look at the resources that you're providing. So my question is really around just the impact that you've seen to date. I realize you're kind of in your infancy, but you did have, you mentioned very quickly 4 success stories of results that you've seen so far. Can you go into a little more detail as to what you're seeing around impact and results?
Yeah, so we've been working with our first cohort. So a gaming cohort could be up to about 7 kids at this point. So it's a small group, right?
Yeah.
What we're seeing over time is that teamwork is improving, the communication skills are improving. Some of the things we didn't put up here is that they do have a little bit of trouble with social interactions, right? So how do I walk into a store and have a conversation with the retail associate or whatever? So we build that into, they talk longer to the blacksmith just asks more conversational questions. to give them some practice. A couple of the kids have come from more traditional therapeutic-based programs with psychologists. We're calling on the coaching side of development and not so much on the counseling and therapy side. And we'll happily refer people to therapists. At some point in time, we may bring some therapists in, but right now, that's the direction we're going. But a couple of the kids have said they're getting way more out of the way we're tackling it and the gaming aspect of it than they get out of a weekly group therapy session, a roundtable kind of approach.
Then we're bringing ping pong.
Okay. Can everybody hear me? So, all right, so to cure, are these kids so readily willing to say that I have this problem? Do they recognize it? Or are their parents saying, I think my kid has a problem? Now there's potentially a bifurcated caring about this. So who really cares, and who's going to pay you to fix the problem? So, you know, that kind of leads me into where's the scale of this, and how difficult will it be to achieve that? Because the team up with gaming, that's a great way to maybe reach some of the audience in general, you know, and an overall scope of things. But it's like, I'm having trouble connecting where you're going with the potential science behind this and cure for a problem that, how many people does this really affect? Yeah, we read bits and pieces about it being an issue, but I'm trying to understand that, you know, you didn't give any stats or, you know, what's the market here and pain?
Right. So what you identified first is one of the challenges that we're working with, right? You have parents who see a need and teens or 20-somethings who may not yet see the need. So we're continuing to refine our messaging on that. The first iteration, for example, that we put out there was got a kid who's stuck. That kid goes there and they're like, yeah. So now we're talking about leveling up in life is how we're pitching it. And some of the challenges really that the teens and 20-somethings are facing are, I think, in some part a result of that parent-child dynamic where, as I said, growth does not happen without moving outside of your comfort zone. And so it's got to be the right set of parents who are thinking, we've tried a lot of different things. I have my kid in therapy and I'm not seeing progress, or group therapy and I'm not seeing progress, and I want to try something else. Or, as I said, with the folks on the spectrum, connections with Teach at UNC, my contact there said those folks are desperate to try and find some additional solutions for the kinds of problems that their kids are facing. I don't have the data on the overall market, but I can tell you as a kid who seems to be struggling in some fashion. We presented at a gaming convention or had a booth at a gaming convention in Raleigh, and I had folks from Columbia, Augusta, Fayetteville, Greenville, Charlotte, Lynchburg, Louisville, and maybe a couple of places who were like, can you replicate what we're doing here? So what I envision I mean, we have to get over that. We have to figure out the challenge of the parent who might want it for the kid who is a little bit reluctant. But I'm envisioning that there are groups in North Raleigh and Cary and Durham and Chapel Hill and on and on and on and on. I think potentially you could have one. It may not be us, but you could have one at every college campus, right? Because they have a sort of a contained group or a resident group population that they're working with, that are working around development. Colleges have lots of resources that they could perhaps duplicate. So anyhow.
Okay, we'll go back to Linda. You've been waiting. Do you still have a question?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. We've got time just so everybody knows. We'll probably make a couple more questions.
Okay.
Offline, I have a couple of suggestions, so don't leave, but is there a price point? I mean, how much is it going to cost per group or per student?
Yeah. So on your handouts there, if you did, we put it in the chairs. So if you, Linda, if you want to grab one. So we have what we're first quest is our entry point into it, and that's the assessments, a couple of gaming sessions to see how it goes, a first meeting with a coach, right? Just to kind of get a flavor of what we're trying to do. And then we have a monthly fee for being part of the program. And as we develop a developmental plan for them over time, moving them out of their comfort zone, we'll give an indication of, you know, here's what we've agreed on as some developmental tasks, and so we think the program might be 3 months or 6 months or whatever it might be. So that's what we're pursuing now. The price point is based on what we hear from therapists around group therapy pricing. and I think we're providing additional supports with the coaching and the assessments and the training, the webinar stuff we're doing. So.
All right, we had one, okay. I'm not sure who went first.
I think you've had your hand up. Yeah.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the website and international community called Nerd Fitness? They have a tagline, level up your life, and a similar gaming model, but it's not a service, it's more of a people around the world that set up their own website.
I am now, so thank you. There are a couple of other sort of similar programs that I am aware of. There's a program in Seattle called Game to Grow that's using gaming. We're using specifically, not Dungeons and Dragons specifically, we're using something that has an easier entry point. It also doesn't cost us any money to use. It's freely available, called Old School Hack. And we're doing that because of the role-playing aspects that we can use. There are lots of ways to grow the gaming, but specifically we're looking at ways to role-play.
Nerd Fitness?
Nerd
It
Fitness.
might be a good community to connect
Yeah,
with.
yeah.
It's already international.
Yep. And
All right, I guess these last two,
I've had some real life experience with this, for 22-year-old, and everything you listed on that first slide was right on.
Yeah.
The problem is he's 22 years old, he truly believes he doesn't have any issues. He doesn't leave the house. I mean, all his friends, when we did talk on the phone, I mean, they communicate online when they're playing games. I mean, it's awful.
Yeah.
So I think the concept to get someone, just kids go in there and try to, learn from that. The reality is they don't think they have any time. It's a way of life.
And it may take a while. One of the questers is 25, going to be 26, and she got a college degree in art history, moved home, started developing anxiety and depression, and and recognized that she just was fine. So, can you help somebody who doesn't recognize that there's an issue? Well, then it takes a little bit more encouragement from the parents. At some point in time, I think sometimes we realize some of the research is showing that through the 20s, and this may point back to where a larger market might be, through the 20s, 20-year-olds report, and particularly men, report greater happiness, mostly because of these sorts of connections in gaming. And then as they go into their 30s, their skill set is such that their happiness just takes a huge dive. So it may take a little while.
Well, it's just someone behind said it's
Yeah.
like alcoholics.
Yeah.
If you don't want to get help, you're
Right.
not going to get help.
Right.
You got to decide. My experience with these kids that I've been around, they don't believe there's a problem.
Yeah. And actually, the summer camp we're doing is a more traditional summer camp with developmental components in it. And so one of the things we want to test out this summer is that a sort of a feeder, right? So we do summer camps to get people used to it because they need to get as a team. Or if there are folks who are home from college and just want to spend a week gaming and they think they're getting away with gaming, well, we're going to weed some educational stuff into it. And then ideally they'll see some of the benefit out of that. But we'll be able to tell you more after we do some of those cases.
all right, last question, we got about 2 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, very bad. Congratulations on what you're doing. I don't think there's any question in the room that there's a need for what you're doing. It's a great thing. Have you thought about, and maybe you're already doing, what happens after they move? Can you move them on to something either useful, worthwhile, maybe life-changing? I say that because of a number of people here have heard about the nonprofit that I started, Developmental Institute. We have over 12,000 volunteers that have started when they're 12, 13 years old. That's to collect, refurbish, and work computers for kids to be able to work them. So it's in the computer room as well. We've had so many nerds, their parents were forewarned, or things like doing, that they just love working on computers and computer guys. I'm not just about working with us, but I'm talking about just nonprofits in general. You take the people that you graduate from your program and turn them back to help the community and do something that they might really, really love doing.
Yeah, that's also sort of on the idea pad or wall, brainstorming wall. One of the things we do is that at the end of their program, they will put together a developmental program that they manage themselves as they exit. So we try and give them some skills and tools and learn how to sort of self-motivate, and then they develop the program with some guidance from their coach, and then they're sort of in charge of working on that plan going forward. I have thought that there might be a nice nonprofit component because I do, whether it'll happen or not, who knows, but I do see the potential for cohorts all over the place that as we take this model and develop it and give running a group with coaching support, a gaming group, so getting some developmental experience out of that. And then, you know, if the nonprofit is able to grow as I hope it will, can we be a feeder for other programs that are out there, other internships? That's certainly one way to do development. So that might be an individual's development plan depending upon what they're working on. Hey, thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll be happy to take questions.